Hi, this is Chris with Clever Unicorn Games and the Unicorn Collective, back with another interview. Today I have Andrew Nerger with me. How you doing today,
Good. Thanks for having me, Chris. I'm really excited for this interview.
Andrew? um, yeah, I've completely forgot what I was going to say there now. I can edit that anyway. Doesn't matter. First bit's so. So, what is it you like to do with your spare time when you're not designing or making board games?
Yeah, so a lot of time is spent with friends. We playing sports, so it will be basketball in the winter or American football in the summer and fall, which has been halted at the moment. So I've switched over to golfing with my brother as a very socially distant, safe sport to do.
I've played some golf and I am terrible at it. When I used to be in management in a retail franchise, and managers used to play golf quite a lot together, and I used to go and play with some of my salespeople a lot with golf as well, and I never got any better at it. My handicap was measured by how many of my 20 balls I had left when I finished the 18th hole, if I finished the 18th hole.
Yeah, that is literally how I play. I mark my game on how many balls I've lost. Yeah, I'm not good either. It's the thing that gets me outside nowadays.
It's a nice walk interspersed with smacking a ball with a stick.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is your favorite board game? Which this is always a hard
Ooh.
one. Pick one.
Oh, I've been ready for this one. To me, it's Biblios. I love it. It's just every game feels different. You can teach it to a new group of people and they can play it competitively. And everything I do in that game, I have the most fun with. And it's some of the simplest actions. It's draw a card. Do you keep it? Do you give it to someone else? And I was like, when I first read the rules, I'm like, this can't be good. And I played it and I was just kind of blown away. I'm like, this is all you need. Like, push your luck. Do you want this card or the next card you can't see? Like, I don't know. So I love Biblios.
I've not even heard of that. I'm gonna have to look that up now. That sounds great.
Ooh,
I've played a lot of
you
games, but that's
will
one that I've
love
never
it.
played.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's really high up there. It's highly rated too. So I'm not
I'm
like
gonna write
sending.
that down with my pen
Oh man, that's exciting. If I can get people turned on to Biblios, I feel like I've done my job.
for that company.
Yeah.
Um, what genre of games or what kind of games, or is there a specific game that made you want to design games yourself?
Oh man, yeah. There's multiple times in my life that I was inspired to design a game, and the first time was probably when I was like 6 or 7 years old. After I played Monopoly, I made my own board. And I had this like you could go corner to corner. There was like an X pathway. Jeff and I really liked Apples to Apples when we were in high school, and we made our own version of Apples to Apples with kind of like inside jokes. So it's just like over and over again, like things excite us. Catan excited us. I feel like, every designer kind of played Catan in that way, was a gateway of just like, there's so many things you can do and you don't have to roll to move. And that like opened up everyone's thoughts. So just tons of stuff. I guess like the biggest one that like really got us into publishing games is Jeff and I kind of or I helped him. Jeff came up with the concept, but Hunger Games had just come out, the book, the movie. And so we made this like online RPG forum. So we got 24 people together. Imagine like almost a Reddit like website where it's just like there'd be a post of like there is a lizard with a giant egg. Like, do you try and eat the egg and sneak by the lizard? Do you avoid it? And we said, hey, after we got done with that RPG, we're like, this can be a board game and like we know exactly what to do. And then like a year later we made a completely different game that had nothing to do with anything that happened in that, but that was our first game. And it just kind of inspired by
That's
really just
brilliant.
designing and making.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, that's like your classic. Remember, you read and choose. What was it? Choose your path books that you used to.
Yeah,
That's like
choose your own adventure.
yeah, that's it. Choose your own adventure books. Yeah. That's a similar
I'm
sort of
very
thing. You can
much
feed
obsessed with
people the
those.
story that they need online through a forum or a blog, yeah, and then they can make the story up from there. I imagine you got quite a lot
Exactly.
out of that creativity wise.
I mean, like the simplicity of the mechanisms, but like the passion and discussion around it was crazy. Like we were, just talking about it every day. It was an obsession. Like we just came to realize that game design was an obsession. It's like literally something that was like in our heads always, and like the only way to get it out is to like make board games. So I mean, absolutely an obsession. Like possibly detrimental to my life in certain aspects.
Um, when coming up with a game, so when you first have the idea for a game, what is the first thing you do? Where do you start?
I think that's changed over the years. When Jeff and I were first designing, it was always mechanism first, which is like find something that you're doing that seemed interesting or seemed like there was like a puzzle or game to it, and then figure out the theme and figure out how to make it marketable. And I think that's changed over like the last year or so, where we try to say like, what's a really fun experience, and how do we make a game around that experience, which is like definitely harder to do, and I feel like leads us down a lot more, dead end paths, but like it's also super intriguing. So now we try to do theme and feel first, um, but I can't say that like if a cool mechanism came out, we wouldn't be inspired by that.
Yeah, I've always been mechanics first. Yeah, mechanisms of the game first, and then figure out a theme to go with it. So I won't just slap any theme on. Obviously, the mechanics you come up with will dictate what kind of theme that game will probably work best with. But yeah, generally for me, I see them, and it usually comes from playing a game. Like I say, I played quite a lot of games. Like I think I'm up to over 70 now on the BGG top 100, so I'm getting through the top 100 slowly,
Wow,
trying to anyway.
great job.
Um,
Yeah, I've always wanted to do that, and it's so
there's a few
daunting.
on there. I mean, can I have first edition through the ages because I've played second edition? Because I don't see myself ever going back and doing first edition. It's one of those. There's a few on there like that. But yeah, no. But
Yeah.
what I find is that I'll play a game, or I'll play a number of games, or even in like a short space of time, I'll play some with the same mechanic and be like, oh, I can probably do something with that that's a little bit different, and that's where it'll come from. Like I'll play a game and go, oh, I like that mechanic. I want to make some up with that, and then I'll start writing stuff down and seeing if it works in my head before going any further with.
To your point about like playing games to get inspired, um, that is just like a huge part of Jeff and my toolkit. Is like we do run into roadblocks where we can't figure it out, and then it's kind of like, okay, what's on your shelf that you either haven't played and you have never played? We're playing those games today just to cleanse the palate and start fresh and like not be in this rut. So that is like the way to design. It's just to play a lot of stuff, get re-inspired. So you brought that up, it just triggered me. I was like, yes, you have to do that.
Well, yeah, that's a lot. That's one thing that I think's come up most with the designers that we've interviewed on the show so far is that answer, play games. You can't really design games unless you've played a lot of games, because
Mm-hmm.
where's your frame of reference? It's very hard to approach creating a game without having a frame of reference from playing other games beforehand, and you can't really. It's hard for you to come up with a mechanic that works perfectly unless you've seen that mechanic also working perfectly and maybe working not perfectly in other games that you've played beforehand to see what's a good way of implementing it and what's a bad way of implementing it. I mean, you could come up with them from scratch without playing a game, but it's going to take you 20, 30 times longer for you to develop them, yourself.
Ex-
So it's
exactly. You're
so
trying to find the pitfalls of other games, understand why they don't work. You're trying to find a game that does it really well and be like, why are these things synergistic together? Like, yeah, kind of the first thing we do if we run to a mechanism is like, all right, who's done this before? And let's like, you know, get a bunch of learnings done, without having to go through a ton of play tests. Like that's super smart. That's exactly what we try to do too.
with your current game with Canvas or any of your games that you've done so far, when you've gone from or can you think of a time from when it's gone from your head all the way to market, where you've started getting it out to gamers? In that time, if you hit a hurdle or a barrier and gone, and then been stopped dead, and then how did you come over that barrier, and how long did it take?
Uh, from a design process or from like a production
Either,
process?
either. Think of one or even two if you can, where you've been stopped
Uh,
dead and you've thought, I don't think I can do that, and then you've
um,
overcome.
in the past, like Jeff and I have always overcommitted on things. So it's actually just like all the time. All the time we do this. The first one was like with Crypt. It's like a small box dice game, 1 to 4 players, and we were just looking for. We always get in this route where we're looking to give backers something special or extra, and we're not sure what it is. And like in some ways, we overpromise. So in that one, we're like, well, we think if people are like, why should I buy 2 games? And we're like, if you buy 2 games, we think we can come up with a 6 and an 8 player variant. But like we thought it was possible, but we hadn't designed it yet. So there we were, mid campaign, just like chugging through ideas on how to do it. And we had so many bad play tests to get to something that we were happy with. But we always do stuff like that. We overpromise and oh, like here's a 3 to 6 player game. Like, let's make a 2 player mode. How would you do that? It's like, well, you're mid campaign. Should you be promising that stuff? It's like, oh, but I want it. Let's just make it happen. Let's design within the constraints.
Did you do it?
So, yep, we've always found a way, and there is something special about like I wonder if a lot of other designers feel this way, but like a game, we always think the game is ready when we go to Kickstarter. And then, like, with all the excitement of the Kickstarter happening and all the feedback from our backers, like, it inspires us and like there's a fire under us. And it's weird. Like, every game we always think is done, and there's always like something greatly improved in that month-long campaign that's inspired by backers, inspired by just like the excitement of like getting to show people something and like it becoming real. Once it funds, like we are just so dedicated to making the best product possible. So there's something special about that time period.
Well, yeah, no, you're not the only one. I've spoke to many designers that have been in the same situation, and but you come at it from the right perspective. Like for one, you said the right thing there in that your game you think is ready when you go to Kickstarter. That's the most important thing. Get it ready. A lot of people now with Kickstarter aren't doing that. They're getting the decent artwork, they're getting their marketing right, and they're putting the rules second, or they're not thinking about that. They're thinking, oh, we can sort that out once we've gone live. Once we know that we're going to fund, we can do that. It's not the right way to do it because a game needs to be developed properly before you get there. Have you played a game that you didn't like? You don't have to name it, but what was it that you didn't like about it? Was it the theme, or was it just the people you were playing with? No, you don't have to, you have to say that one. But
Oh
yeah,
man,
yeah,
I will say there's a lot to be said about playing the right game with the right game group. And I have so like sure, so a game I played and I didn't like it at all was oh crap, what was it called? It's like a Robin Hood game where you're like trying to sneak goods
Sheriff of Nottingham.
into Sheriff of Nottingham. So I played Sheriff of Nottingham in the first time and I was like, there's nothing to this game. You just like randomly put a bunch of stuff in a bag, you say something, there's no reason for anyone to say you're lying or you're not lying. Like this isn't even a game. And so I was like, that was a huge waste of money. And then, you know, months down the line, another friend wanted to bring it out and I wasn't gonna say no because that was rude and we were at his place. And so he brought it out and it was with his friends and they just gamified it and they would bluff and they would lie and they found the fun in the game. And after that, I was like, oh, this is why this thing is so great. So who you play with is such a huge part of it. And I love games that are bad and broken and make no sense. And I think because of that, a lot of my friends don't like playing with me Because and Jeff the same way is what we like to do is like while we're playing is analyze and be like, this is stupid. I don't know why they're doing this, and it drives a lot of our friends insane. But the analysis of even bad board games is really exciting to me.
Yeah, no,
But
that's
generally, if I have a bad experience, it's because of the players.
yeah, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. It's the people I know. I wish I had better friends.
Anyone can make any game fun, man. I mean, you could, if you're in prison and you're with the right person, like it could be a blast, I'm sure.
And it can be the opposite of that.
And it could be way worse. Yes, yes.
Yeah, Sheriff and Nottingham is one that I've played a couple of times, and you're right. One time with one group, it was okay, but then the next time, so much more fun because it was just a bunch of uh, loud, funny people. Generally, that's the best kind of people you want to play with that kind of game. Why is it that you make games? What is it that drives you to make games?
Yeah, we kind of talked about this before. It's just an obsession. It's in my head. I know I have dreams about board games. I know I've designed games in my dreams. If I'm in a really boring situation where I have to wait in line, in America, the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, is known for taking hours to get anything done. I'll just be having an absolute blast in my head playing a game I'm trying to design. So that's just it. Like, I don't know. Something's wrong with me. I can't stop thinking about it. It gets in the way of things I should be doing. I lose track of time. That's kind of why I design games.
What are you working on right now?
So right now we finished up the Canvas campaign and we're in like a really exciting spot, which is Jeff and I, my design partner, we allow ourselves to literally work on anything, and we play everything, and we have design ideas that are 3 or 4 years old that never work, that we always find ourselves going back to and trying out new stuff. So it's really exciting in that way. I guess I can say this. It's not official, and there's a chance it doesn't get made. But Crypt is one of our first like very successful games, and we're going to go and reprint it. And then we want to make a couple of changes to the rulebook to make it more understandable, and that's led us down this path of kind of redesigning the game. And so we think we've just made like a much. We're hoping to make a much cleaner, nicer, even more better version of it. And that might be our next project. I'm not sure, but we always try and go back and redesign old games we've done and try and improve stuff, and it never works out. And I would say it's generally a terrible pit that designers shouldn't go down. But in this one instance, it's working out at the moment. And if we did an interview next week, I might be like, I wouldn't say anything about it because it crashed and burned. But at the moment, that's the big project that we've been focusing on, and I'm really excited about.
How many units have Crypt sold overall?
40,000.
Brilliant. Yeah, so that's a perfect position to come in with a second edition. Yeah, because you've got, and the ratings for it on BGG are actually really good as well. So you
Yeah.
know that people are going to invest in a second edition of it, especially if you say that it's going to be a complete reworking of the rules and stuff. Or you can't go wrong
One
with
would
it.
hope.
Yeah, I'll touch wood. I've got a wood desk. I'm touching wood, but yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Thank you.
What piece of advice would you give to anybody thinking of getting into this business that is board game design? What would you say to a new person with an idea?
Yeah, I think we've kind of touched on it. I would say there's two things. One thing is what we touched on, which is like a ton of games. Just fall in love with playing all sorts of stuff and as much as you can, and play new games whenever you can. I feel like some designers they'll play a game like Dominion, and it's like the first thing they were introduced to, and they become obsessed with it. And then when they design a game, they're designing a Dominion clone, and that's why I'm always like, play more games, play different games, and you'll make something that has all the stuff you love about Dominion, but you might add in like so much cool stuff and like really progress whatever genre you're playing with. The other thing I would say is like, you know, be very aggressive with it. Play test it a lot. Set deadlines for yourself, even if you don't hit them. Get your game done. Try and get the first game done. Like, get the game done so you can get on to the next one, which, I think people really struggle with. But being able to finish a project, whether deciding a game's done, is so hard to do as a designer. And so if you can do that, you've really eclipsed probably 99% of all designers out there. So get it, if you can just get it done, even if it's not perfect, do something with it, decide what the end goal is, get on to the next one, because all the learnings from the first one you're going to carry over, and you're just going to be better for it. Every game we design, I like to think is better than all the games that came before it. And I personally feel a growth. And the only way to feel that growth is to finish and move on. So those are my 2 tips.
Like it. Thank you very much for coming to speak to me today, Andrew. This has been brilliant.
Oh, thank you. This was a blast.